Yes. Mr. Fitzpatrick. Spinelli did a great job, despite what Keller said. He did an awesome job, and we want to thank everybody for doing a good job.
Your relations? All of your relations?
I'm David Jr.
You're David Jr. And you are?
I'm his mother.
And your name?
Janice.
Janice. And your last name?
Please no.
Okay. How do you spell that?
Poissant.
And you are?
I'm David Jr.
Very good. Okay. So your thought now that this has all come to a conclusion?
Just relief and justice. It was a long road, and thank goodness for the outcome.
Your message, if you could talk to Stacey Castor.
I couldn't put it into words. I'd rather spend 5 minutes in a room with her.
What about to your dad, if you can talk to him today?
I just hope he's resting easier. And we're going to move him.
Someday.
We're going to move him someday away from where she put him.
And what about to the DA? You said you feel like there's injustice.
Christine Garvey, Christine Knowles, and Mr. Fitzpatrick. They did great. Dominic, everybody. I'm sure I'm leaving names out, but they all did a wonderful job. And we, as a family, appreciate it so much.
What about to Ashley and Bree and all of them?
Well, I felt like we've been through so much. They have been through so much too. And no, they kept on saying sorry, but it wasn't their fault. And we have no hard feelings towards them at all. No, they've been through so much. I can't even imagine.
And if anything, if you can take anything away from this whole experience, what might that be? Have you been able to kind of think about that yet, or do you think that'll take time?
Time, I think. Yeah. It just, like I said, it's been such a long road, and thank goodness for the outcome of it.
Do you still think about your dad?
Every day.
Kind of talk to him every day, or?
I think about him constantly, and I just hope he's resting easier.
And if there's a memory that you have of him that you'd like to share, what do you want people to know about your dad?
There's so many memories. There's a little, we spent a lot of moments together, but, I had a picture of him. We didn't have any heat in our house, and I'm wearing a snowsuit with a hat, and he's cuddled up on the couch with me. I mean, it's a memory I can't remember because I was so young, but that's what I like to think, because my kids are like that size, and you just...
Yeah. And what about for you? Anything that you kind of take away from all of this now as you're walking away?
There are no other words right now than guilty, guilty, guilty. And justice has prevailed, and she's going where she belongs, and everyone can go on, and hopefully there's peace for the girls, peace for David. His father's at peace now internally, and like he said, when he is moved, he'll be at peace as a whole next to his father, near his father, and justice.
Yeah. How about for you? Anything you'd like to kind of share on this day?
I'm just happy for them.
It's been an emotional journey, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad for them. And I mean, he was my father-in-law, but he didn't deserve what she did, and neither did Mike Wallace, and neither did Ashley. It's because of that.
And if you could say something to Stacey, is there anything that comes to mind?
Rotten peace.
No peace, rotten hell.
Well, I can't say that.
You could say it, rotten hell.
Yes.
She does not deserve to see the light of day.
Nope.
Best of luck, you guys.
Thanks
for talking to us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What was that like? It was like relief. But I'll tell you one thing, those girls are angels. And I know my brother was right by their side today through the whole thing, because he was a protector, and he would have protected those girls through anything.
How hard has this been on all of you through this?
Awful. She was my sister-in-law. We're connected because her children are my blood. I knew Ashley didn't do it, but I didn't want to believe she did either. I was torn.
At Mike's service, Stacey got up and gave this beautiful eulogy and said Mike faced a lot of demons. Guess what? She was the biggest demon.
And we lost.
When you sat and they read that first count. I was in there, I heard it. What did it feel like to you?
That we all won. And I was afraid that the jury wasn't going to see it like we did. That Ashley couldn't have done this. But they must have felt it. They must have felt what we were feeling.
Are you overcome? I heard the gasps, I heard the crying emotionally when you hear that first guilty verdict come out of their mouths. What comes over you?
All the tension just left my body. And I knew that that woman would not get out and do this again to some other family. I don't know why she did what she did, and I really wanted to ask her why. It's the one thing I wanted to ask her. Why? You know, if you didn't love these men, why didn't you just leave them? Take your daughters and leave. Like most women do, you know? But to kill them? That's... And then to blame your daughter? Your own flesh and blood? I don't know how she could do it. And then when they said guilty, 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 she had no expression on her face. The woman is very badly sick. She's really sick.
What was it like for you to watch her while the verdict was coming down?
I watched her and I saw no expression. And I felt hatred, and not really hatred, it was more anger for what she put her own daughters through. And she killed both of those men, which they didn't deserve to die. You know, even if they even had, you know, I believe that once David got up in that cemetery with my brother, I believe that's how my brother found out. And I believe that the both of them were with us all this time, and they were giving us strength to pull through this.
Do you ever have any doubts that you'd get a guilty verdict in this case?
Honestly, no. I don't mean to sound too overconfident, but my observations about the jury were just confirmed by my conversations with them. They're a very good group of people. They're very, very smart, and boy, did they work hard at it. And as long as they worked hard at it, I knew that in my heart that they were going to come to the right verdict. So I felt good.
What was it like for you when that came in and I saw you go over to the family or the Ashley?
Well, that was a very joyous moment, because what the jury has said loud and clear is that, Ashley, we believed you. And that's important for her based on what she's been through. You know, a not guilty verdict, I think, would have been just another traumatic event in her life that she doesn't deserve. She's an extraordinary young woman. I'm very proud of her and her sister Bree, and they're going to move on with their lives now, obviously, without the influence of their mother.
What was Stacey Castor's biggest mistake?
Wow. Stacey, I don't know if she made one biggest one. Let's say a series of mistakes, but boy, when she wrote that note, if she had that note to do over again, it'd be a lot different than it was.
Do you think that was the biggest piece of evidence that convicted her?
I think if I had to pick out one piece of evidence, it would be Ashley Wallace. If I had to pick out one piece of physical evidence, it would be probably the note. But you can't look at this case piecemeal. You have to look at it, the constellation, and that we're talking. You know, nobody in their right mind loses a husband like she lost Mike Wallace, and then sits by, you know, as David Castor is dying over the course of 72 hours. And believe me, this is not, you know, drinking poison and you fall down and you drop dead. This is an agonizing, slow death. So for her to try to hoist that story on first the cops and then the police and then this jury was tough.
People saw obviously some anger and some frustration in you during your question.
They didn't see any frustration in me. They might have seen a little Irish in me, but.
Is that a true reflection? Is that a true reflection of how you were feeling at that moment?
Absolutely. I look. First of all, I know this is a high-profile case. When I'm in that courtroom and when Christina's in that courtroom, it's just me and her against the forces of evil. In this case, Stacey Castor. I'm oblivious to you and what you think. I'm getting home. I come home at night and my kids are like running and hiding. You know, they don't want to be near Dad. And people that I've known for 30 years are saying, "Man, what was that all about?" And I'm saying, "What are you talking about?" I said, "That's the way I try cases. My heart and soul goes into that case." That woman got on that stand and was bald-faced lying to that jury. And then you couple that with the circumstances that she's out with a good blank in the backyard with her friends, and her daughter's now in the 10th hour of this, Rip Van Winkle nap, and she's oblivious to it, and she expects us to believe that this is normal. And I was angry, and I let her know that I was angry, hoping to get some kind of reaction out of her, but I might as well have been telling her that it was cold outside.
What's your view of Stacey Castor coming out of this case?
She is, look, there's a ceiling that you reach in terms of evil, and and she's at the ceiling. When people go up to that ceiling and they look around, they see people like Jeff Cahill and Stacey Castor. She's right up there with the best of them.
Sir, you say that you were confident that you were going to get the verdict that you were looking for. Are you
Well,
now just as, let's try not to get choked here,
Yeah.
are you now just as confident going into sentencing?
Yes, I mean, one of the beauties of the case and having Christine as my able assistant is that things are done right. I'm not worried about appellate issues. Judge Fahey is as good a judge as there is in Onondaga County. He gave both sides a very fair trial. So, I'm very, very confident that the judge will impose the maximum sentence. I don't mean to presuppose that because it's his decision, not mine. But this verdict is going to stand.
We should still have a death penalty?
Well, let's one controversy per day.
Do you know what might be coming from Auburn, even though she's going away for this? Do you think that?
Well, I spoke to my colleague in Auburn, and as to quote him, John Boodleman, he says, "Fitz, I've got a dead body here who's a murder victim in Auburn. I'm going to do something about it." Now, John's going to have a tough case. It's going to be tough to pick a jury in light of what happened here. But the defendant might want to make some decisions about that because I don't want John Boodleman on my tail. I'll tell you that.
Fitz, you indicated you talked to the jury after this. Did they say anything about what they specifically thought of her testimony?
I'll keep the conversation private with the jury, but I was very, very pleased with what they said. Somebody had a question for Christine?
Your reaction?
Oh, I'm very pleased. These three families have gone through a lot, and Ashley has been resilient throughout this whole thing. I'm very happy that this is over with for her.
What is form any kind of like a bond with these?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been in touch with her just about every week since the inception of this case, and anytime she's needed to talk to somebody, she's called me. We've chatted. We've definitely developed a bond.
Did she say anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll keep in touch, definitely. It's frequent that we keep in touch with victims after verdicts.
What's the toughest part for you? Have Ashley agreed. You've seen a father die, a stepfather die, a mother attempt to kill one of them, a mother now going to prison probably for life. How do you get victims through that?
Well, I think this is an important part of the process. Ashley now knows that a jury believes her, so I think she can start to put the pieces together, but I think she started doing that months ago. I mean, she has a 4.0 average in school, and she's working full-time. She tutors students, and she's doing very well. So this is an important part of that process.
You dealt with a lot of the forensic evidence in this. What does it say about the quality of forensic evidence in Onondaga County?
Oh, I think we have one of the top crime labs,
Top shelf.
in the nation.
If other people throughout the country could watch the way that Kathy Corrado's people testified at this trial, Dr. Hum, Dr. Bracken, Mark Mills, who am I leaving out? They're just
Former people from the lab.
Former people from the lab who came back. Just top shelf, beginning to end, quality work, truth through science, no agenda. Compare that to some of the people that testified for the defense. It's amazing what you can find on the internet with $50 these days.
Phil, are you arranging for the family and all to be available to us?
Well, I'm certainly going to talk to them. I'll let them make that choice.
You got a hug from Ashley afterward. What was
I'm
that
sorry,
like
Angie?
for you? You got a hug from Ashley afterward. What was that like for you?
That was the creme de la creme. That was great. I don't think I could have looked at that girl if the jury said not guilty. I would have had to live with that for the rest of my life. But she was very thrilled at the result, and she's a special girl. She's a special girl.
Fitz, is any other prosecution expected to come out of the grand jury investigation of the pill bottle?
That investigation is still pending, Jim, and I won't have any comment on that until I digest what happened today.
Chuck, you talked to the jurors. Did they give you any indication what it was that prompted them to find her guilty as charged?
Well, I had a long conversation with the jurors, and as much as in the end, I disagree with the verdict, they really took a close look at all the evidence. They really did pay attention to all the evidence. And in fact, some of the things that we had thought were, not very important or distractions, they also felt the same way. So they looked at the evidence, and obviously, there was some evidence we believe that they should have seen or heard, which they did not. They did exactly what we had hoped they would do with what they had. They took a close look at everything. Probably in my estimation, the most important thing they looked at was simply just timelines and opportunity.
District Attorney Fitzpatrick said that he felt
That's okay.
confident that he was going to get his guilty verdict going into this. How did you feel going in?
Well, a long time ago I gave up guessing about what a verdict's going to be. Sorry. A long time ago I gave up guessing what a verdict's going to be on a trial, especially something of this magnitude. My own instinct was that if they had come back very quickly, it would have gone our way simply because of the question about how the alcohol and the pills had gotten into the daughter's system. And we also felt that if it would have gone, conventional wisdom is that the longer a jury is out, the better it is for the defense. And we're sort of in the middle ground here, so this is sort of in that no man's land where you can't really predict.
Chuck, the timeline was that Ashley Wallace was 12 years old when she would have committed the murder of Michael Wallace. Is that what they couldn't get their arms around?
No, not at all.
What timeline are you referring to?
Just simply the timelines from 2005 and 2007. I mean, again, I'm not going to speculate on exactly what their positions are. That's for them to say or not say, but it was essentially came down to opportunity.
Did they give you an indication? That you feel that could become the basis of an appeal based upon one of the judge's rulings, what do you think that might be?
Well, obviously, there's a conviction. There will be an appeal. Probably the single biggest thing would be the inclusion of the evidence from the Michael Wallace death.
And what did that do to your case?
Well, it complicates the issues, and it essentially takes it's essentially piling on. In a case where there really is no evidence one way or the other because there never was an investigation, the presumption as that evidence comes in is that Stacey was the one who did it, and there really is no evidence that she has, and there has never even been an investigation, really. At this point, I suppose there would be, but at the time there never was. So.
But isn't there precedent for that kind of case?
Well, the issue is, there are times when prior alleged bad acts do come in, but typically it's where someone is actually convicted of a crime. It's very unusual and very rare for something to come in where no one has ever been even charged with a crime. That's the distinction.
Chuck, with regard to the ingestion of the alcohol and the pills by Ashley, you questioned how that could have been done. Did the jurors give you an indication how they resolved that in finding the defendant guilty?
They have their own suspicions. Like I said, I won't get into what they think or what they don't think. That's for them to decide. But what it really came down to for them was essentially the timeline.
What's Stacey Castor's frame of mind right now after all this?
Well, I mean, obviously, I talked to her before the verdict came down, and we had prepared her for what the possibilities were, and I let her know that no matter what happens, it's not over. There'll be an appeal. The case will continue, and of course, that's what's going to happen. So.
Was she surprised? I mean, what was her reaction as it was actually coming out? What did you get from her?
Well, I mean, I haven't had a chance to speak to her since the verdict. So specifically what her reaction is, I don't want to speculate. I mean, obviously disappointment. That's probably the least of it.
Has it been hard trying a case when there's been a lot of national attention and there's been a national spotlight on this case?
The spotlight itself probably has not caused a lot of problems with the actual trying of the case. The nature of the case itself and the fact that we're dealing with 3 separate incidents alleged to have occurred over a 10-year period, all with different people involved, that was what made the case difficult to try. The complexity of the case in terms of dates and times and people and the capacities of law enforcement to conduct an investigation in 2000 are different than they were in 2005, different than they are in 2007. And trying to put all the pieces of 3 different, very complicated puzzles together was probably what made it very difficult.
There are 3 crimes here. Did you ever feel at any point that you were defending Stacey Castor for those 3 crimes, even though she was only charged with 2 of them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from the start, we felt that we were defending it. This was actually instead of sort of a murder, an attempted murder case. That was actually a double homicide and an attempted murder case from the very start.
Chuck, as you look back, second guessing, anything you could have done different based on what the jurors talked to you?
Well, I mean, there are a million things we could have done differently. I don't necessarily think that there's something that we would go back and do differently. We would have liked to have put some more of the evidence that we had in front of the jury, but those decisions aren't made by the defense. Those are made by the court, and the court decides what's appropriate for the jury to hear.
And you felt like you needed more time, and you were asking the judge that.
Well, the reason why we were asking for more time was because there were certain reports, both toxicology and computer forensics reports, which we received. The computer forensics report we received literally the Thursday before we selected the jury. And the toxicology reports maybe 2 weeks before that, and we're talking about thousands of pages. And in the end, we did the best we could with what we had, under the time we had.
Over 4 days the jury deliberated. Did they give any indication whether they had any trouble during that time, or was it just a deliberate process going through the evidence since Monday?
My impression, and again, they can speak for themselves, but my impression is that they took their time. They wanted to make sure of it with the evidence they had. They wanted to be able to sleep at night and make sure of it in their own minds they got it right. And as much as I disagree with the verdict, I certainly can't disagree with their efforts and their dedication towards hearing the evidence.
But you're saying you definitely will appeal.
Oh, absolutely. There will be an appeal. Absolutely, 100%.
Bill Fitzpatrick also indicated that he believes Cayuga County will pursue charges in connection with the Michael Wallace death at this point. Do you have any indication that that's something she'll face as well?
Obviously, I would probably be the last to know about that, and I probably wouldn't know until somebody says she's been arrested for it. That's up to Cayuga County, obviously. At some point, the convictions carry mandatory life sentences. So at some point there's an impracticality sort of to it, but that's a decision that Cayuga County will have to make.
Thank you, Chuck.
No problem.